Hello, everyone. We are at the top of the hour and we are going to get started. So, everyone, welcome to this session of Let's Talk Bitdefender. I'm Isaac Eliyahu. I am a customer success manager here at Atera for everyone that's seeing me for the first time. I am really excited for today's session. I'm joined today by Mike Reeves from Bitdefender. Mike, are you there? Oh, Mike, still muted?
Yep,
there we go.
I got it. Hello, hello.
Fantastic. So before we get started, just a quick introduction to everyone. This session is really going to be a session about everything Bitdefender related. We are going to be talking to all of our customers. So whether you are in IT department, whether you're an MSP, whether you're an IT consultant, whether you've used Bitdefender in the past, or if you're just starting off with Bitdefender, this really is for everyone. So please take the time to join us, listen in, send your questions in via the Q&A. We will have time towards the end of the session, and we're going to definitely be going through those questions. And we're going to start by going through Atera to show you Bitdefender, and then we're going to jump directly into the GravityZone. Mike, do you want to just take a moment to really share with everyone a bit about yourself, and then we'll jump right into the Atera?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mike Reeves. I'm a cloud security architect for Bitdefender. Been with Bitdefender about 1.5 years now, and just really excited to be here. I've been in the industry a long time, as you could see from my gray. But yeah, really happy to talk to you guys today about GravityZone and maybe some best practices for you, things that you may not know that are in GravityZone. I'm finding that a lot of partners, customers just have not explored the interface. And so hopefully we could do that. I'll point out a few tips and tricks for you today. So glad to be here.
Fantastic. So let's quickly get started. I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. Okay. All right. And we should all be seeing the Atera dashboard right now. Okay. Perfect. So if you haven't, or if you are already using Bitdefender, you can easily start your subscription directly from within the Atera dashboard. Just log into your Atera account, and you'll notice on the left-hand side, we have all of our add-ons available. Click on add-ons and select antivirus, and here you'll find Bitdefender. Now, in my case, I've already registered for Bitdefender, and so the option that I have is Manage Bitdefender. If not, when you reach this landing page, you'll see all of our current offerings that Atera is offering in our partnership with Bitdefender, and you'll be able to start a free trial. Upon doing so, you're going to receive an email with your temporary password, and that will get you set up and access to the GravityZone. Okay. And I think from here, we're going to have Mike share his GravityZone, which really has probably a lot more content than I do.
Sure, that sounds great. So let me go ahead and share my GravityZone screen with you all. And I'll just kind of pick up, if it's okay with you, Isaac. They received the email, you know, what would I do first? What would I do second? So we'll kind of walk through the interface that way. And then feel free to jump in if you have any questions from the audience or yourself. Be happy to talk to whatever topic you guys want to talk about. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my screen, Isaac?
We're seeing it.
Okay. So what you're going to do is when you log into GravityZone, after you accept the EULA, you'll be taken to a screen that looks like this. This will actually be blank because as you start a trial, you're not going to have any deployments. But I'll just show you what I would do when I first come into GravityZone. Is I would come up here into this section, and you'll see welcome your name. What I would do is I'd come up here, and the first thing that I would change is one of the defaults in GravityZone, which is this session timeout. What you'll see here is the session timeout is 15 minutes, which is a pretty short amount of time to keep the session open. So if you find yourself having to re-log in all the time when you go get a cup of coffee, or maybe you go to the restroom or whatever, or have a conversation, come back, you have to re-log in, this is the setting that you want to change. Now, I'm in and out of GravityZone all day, so I'm going to set mine for 8 hours to keep the session open. But you may want to set this for 30 minutes or an hour, something reasonable for your particular company. So I would go and come in here, change this, and then make sure as you exit out of different sections of GravityZone, make sure you hit the save button here, okay? So the other thing that you'll notice here in this section that I'll just point out for, you know, I get the question a lot, how do I integrate GravityZone with another platform, whatever that platform may be? This is the key area for that, and that is you have to create an API key. GravityZone is a completely API-driven platform. And so what you'll need to do is create a key and enable various functionality within or allow access to various pieces of GravityZone via selecting these boxes. Make sure you click save. You'll create an API key. So that API key and that access URL will allow whatever platform to integrate with Bitdefender GravityZone. The documentation for that is actually in the help and support section that we'll get to in just a second. So those two areas are pretty critical for most customers and partners. The second thing that I would do is I would come down here to my company. And in my company, make sure that you fill out who the contact person is for this particular company, kind of the overall administrative user. Then the other thing that I will point out is your license usage report can be accessed right here. And we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about reports, but the licensing for your company is actually contained right here as well as the reporting. And then the other piece that I get a lot of questions about is, what if I have an existing GravityZone environment? How do I associate that to a different partner? So I get that question a lot. So the way that you do that is very, very simple, and it's contained in this screen. What you need to do is ask for the company ID of the partner that you want to associate to. So this may be Atera. So I want to get Atera's company ID. I copy that or get sent that ID. And what I do, it's very, very simple to associate my existing GravityZone account with Atera. All I have to do is click this change button, paste there the Atera company ID in right there, click save. Instantaneously, I am now associated with a Bitdefender partner, okay? So that's what we call kind of change of channel. Really, really simple within GravityZone to perform that particular action. So that is, yeah, go ahead.
This would also be a great time for me to remind everyone that we actually do have a full knowledge base article available to help along the way. And of course, our support team are also available to help should you tackle any troubleshooting issues along the way when you're migrating your accounts.
That's awesome. Yep. So that's kind of where I would go first. The other piece that I will mention here is this help and support section. The main two guides are right here, the partner's guide, or it may be called the administrator's guide in your particular GravityZone instance, and the installation guide is right here. So very, very simple to use. You can also, there's an area to open up a support ticket here. So lots of helpful information in this top section, my account, my company, and then the help and support. So now I've adjusted my session timeout. I have my correct association for my account. Now what would I do? I'd probably come down here and create a company or series of companies. So I even would recommend for the partners out there that are actually managing the security service on behalf of their customers, create your own internal use company for GravityZone. So I would come in here, I'd create a company. and this company could be called internal use. You give the company a name, it's going to ask for the country, it's going to ask for state or province. And then what you do is you also control the type of licensing for your customer as well. So if you want to start your customers or your own internal use on a trial, you can do that just by selecting the license type here, okay? And then if you want to give access to a user at this company, so for example, it may be a co-managed situation or whatever, you can add their account here. Now, for the end users out there where you are the customer, you're not going to see the company's field. This will not be here because you are the ultimate end user. So you are in GravityZone a customer. But one of the things that's really unique about Bitdefender is we have the same interface, so the same platform, regardless of which type you are, whether you're a customer, whether you're a partner who's managing on behalf of a customer, and also how you consume Bitdefender from a licensing perspective. It's all in the same platform. There are different sections of GravityZone that may be that you may see or not see based upon the type of customer you are or the type of partner you are, etc. But just know that all of our capabilities are built into this same platform, and it's completely multi-tenant, multi-user, etc. So that's the first thing that I would do, is create companies for my customers if I'm a partner. The second thing that you're probably going to want to do is come up here to packages. Oh, let me show you before we get into packages what this is going to look like.
Mike, very quickly, I just want to I just want to remind everyone, because our audience is filled with both MSPs and we also have IT departments, it is really important that they create companies and multiple companies if necessary. Is there a rule or a guidance to kind of create your companies by? I mean, why should our customers and our listeners today create multiple companies as opposed to work under one company?
Good question. Great question. So I would say if you're an MSP, you're definitely going to want to create multiple companies. The reason why is for a couple of different things. Number one, it also corresponds to your bill that you receive from Atera. So if you want your bill separated out by company, etc., or I'll give you a great example of what this would look like. If I come up here to my company and I select view report.
You want to be able to see. Yes.
You want to be able to see your different companies broken out by their usage. Does that make sense? So that's the first reason. The second reason is from a policy perspective. So if I can assign policies, and you may get this question because I get the question a lot, is how do I assign policies? So you can assign policies at the company level right here by just right-clicking on the icon. You can select companies based upon groups as well. So it's also a way to segment your policies based upon your customers as well. So those are some of the reasons. There are other reasons, but it gets into a little bit more detail, but it's granular control. It also connects to your billing. It segments your customers from a billing perspective. It segments them from a policy perspective, etc. So I would highly recommend, especially for those of you that are partners that are managing multiple customers, have a company created for each one of your customers. Okay.
Right.
Now, the other thing too is, what if you're in a situation where you didn't do that and you now want to do that? Well, it's very, very simple. If you're under monthly license subscription, I can create a company, and then I can drag and drop systems from one group to another right in GravityZone. So it's very, very simple to move your companies around or your customers around based upon that. So that's kind of the first thing. So that's what it looks like. Then the second thing that I would do is I'd come up here and create a package. And a package is basically a deployment package that you will deploy onto various endpoints. So those packages, you're going to create a package. You're going to associate a package with a company if you manage multiple companies. If you don't, Bitdefender will automatically associate it with your company. So if you're a customer there, then what you're going to do is you're going to select the different modules, security modules that you want to activate in this particular package. So these are basically the core functionality of Bitdefender, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the policy. Device control and power user, these are the base functionality of Bitdefender. So when we talk about the core or the base, that's what it is referring to. It's our anti-malware, advanced threat control, anti-exploit, firewall, network protection, device control, power user. Those are all part of the base functionality of Bitdefender. These are add-ons, encryption, EDR, ATS. I'll actually show you these when we get to the policy itself. So what you're going to do is you're going to basically save this particular package. Now, one of the things I want to point out here is notice in this package, I have add-ons that are available. If I don't see those add-ons, so for example, let me pick, I think this one here does not have add-ons. Okay, so notice the add-ons are not available for this particular package. And specifically notice that it's for this company. The reason why is when you create a company down here, so let me go to MR internal use. When I scroll down here, notice this is where you deploy various or enable various add-ons for this particular company. So the first thing that you need to do is actually enable an add-on if you want it for this company, and then you'll see that available in the package. So step number one, enable it in the company. Step number two, then select it in the package. Now I also get a lot of questions about how big packages are. So once you've created packages, now you want to go and deploy various packages, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to select a package, okay? These are all of your kits for various packages. So Windows, Linux, Mac. I get asked the question, how big are these packages? The first thing I want to say is I would use the Windows downloader and the Linux downloader as a standard practice. Just push those out. The package itself will auto-discover the operating system. So you don't have to worry about whether or not it's a server operating system, workstation operating system. If it's 64, 32-bit, you don't have to worry about that. But to answer the specific question, the Windows kit is about 584 meg. The Linux kit is 780 something meg. And then the Mac kit is 330 meg. Now, what I will say is in the month of May, those will shrink by about 25%. Bitdefender is actually re-architecting and re-engineering our endpoints. So those will shrink by about 25% when it comes to May. So right now, those are the sizes of those packages, but in another month, they're gonna shrink, okay? So that is, so you can deploy this package. You can download this, put it on a share. You can send download links here. So these are all accessible via the cloud as well. The other thing that I will mention is you can also do what we call Active Directory integration. So you can integrate or set a system as an Active Directory integrator. It will auto-discover by pulling Active Directory all of the other machines, and then you can select those machines, come up here to Task, and you can install right here. So you can remotely install. If you're on a work group and not on Active Directory, you can use what we call a relay role within Bitdefender. So in the package itself, we have a role called a relay. So you can select and deploy a relay role. And what this will do is on a work group, it'll auto-discover all the systems on a work group, and you can use that relay as kind of a proxy to remotely deploy Bitdefender as well. So there's multiple ways to deploy Bitdefender. Once you get Bitdefender deployed, it's very, very simple to add or remove functionality from the endpoint itself by coming up here to Task and saying, I want to reconfigure a client, and you can either add or remove any functionality that you select here. Once I click Save, Bitdefender will automatically enable or disable functionality on the endpoint itself on the fly. So very, very simple to reconfigure. This comes into play a lot when, let's say, a company or you deploy the base package to a customer, and then 6 months later you want to add EDR. How do I do that? I don't want to redeploy. All you have to do is come in here, click Add EDR, click Save, and you are done. Okay, so that's kind of deployment. Now, the other thing that we need to talk about is a policy. So policies control everything within Bitdefender. All security controls are enabled or disabled by policy, and all of the settings for those security controls are defined by policy as well. So let me open up a policy here and I'll show you. So Bitdefender has one out of the box. I would highly recommend that you copy that or clone that and then save it as your own. In fact, you can't even modify the Bitdefender built-in default policy. So you're going to want to do that as kind of your first step. Clone it, set it as the default, and then come in here. And let me walk through some of this information regarding the policy itself. So one of the things is that I get a question a lot is, hey, one of my users created a policy and I can't seem to modify that policy. Why is that? It's because when the user created the policy, they did not check this box where it says allow other users to change this policy. So make sure if you have a policy that is going to be used from your company or for your company, and you want others to be able to manage that policy on your behalf, or maybe you're going to possibly leave that company, make sure you check this box right here. Okay. So this is the details. Notifications in the policy is basically what the end user is going to see. In other words, I try to keep things simple. This answers the question, how chatty do you want Bitdefender to be? So if you want Bitdefender to be very chatty, make sure that you select all of these boxes, and Bitdefender will constantly have pop-ups. If you don't, which is most customers, most partners, what I would do is make sure these boxes are unchecked. Make sure that even in the endpoint issues visibility, you uncheck these boxes. Basically, what this is telling Bitdefender, if I select save here, I'm only going to show a pop-up to my end users if for some reason Bitdefender needs to reboot that particular device. Now, I've been here for a year and a half. We haven't done that on any endpoints right now, but that could happen in the future. I would want to make sure that an end user can say postpone or something like that. So this is defining how chatty you want to be. Notice up here at the top, we have silent mode. Bitdefender will not even show the icon in the system tray if you go into silent mode. So be careful with that. That is truly silent mode, stealth mode. But anyway, that is what the end user sees. Settings, this is where you set your uninstall password. This is also where you set up what we call the power user. I get this question a lot. I want to administrate Bitdefender on one single machine. How do I do that? This is what we call power user. This is an administrative mode. You right click on the icon once you set up the password here. You right click on the icon. You select run in power user. It'll prompt you for a password. You input this password, and now you're administrating Bitdefender locally on that system. You can enable, disable various functionality. You can exclude certain items. You can just modify Bitdefender right from that particular machine. So that's what we call power user. That's right here. The updates, this is how often Bitdefender is going to update itself. Security telemetry, this is where you want to integrate with a third-party SIM. You can either use like an HTTPS log collector or something like that if you want to integrate. We integrate natively right now with Splunk. This is an area of investment for Bitdefender moving forward. So you're going to see some more direct integrations here. Then we get to the anti-malware section. Anti-malware is basically our on-access scanning, on-execute scanning. This is kind of our correlation engine. This is also where ransomware mitigation is found. It's part of our base functionality of Bitdefender, not an add-on, not an extra cost. It basically does it splits a change in an object, and Bitdefender will make a copy of that change, stored in a secure location on the file system that's protected by Bitdefender, then allow whatever process to change whatever object it's trying to change. And then you can recover from that either on demand, which I recommend for servers, or automatically, which is more for workstations. So this is triggered by our ATC engine. It's part of our package. On demand is, I want to set up a full file system scan to run once a week. That is what Bitdefender calls on demand. So on demand, I want to set up a full scan. I tell it when I want that scan to run, and I click save, and you will set up a weekly full scan or whatever your particular policy requires.
Mike,
Yeah.
is it okay to run that scan during the daytime when your end users may be online and using the device? Or...
Yeah, great question. I would say yes, as long as you don't uncheck this box. So one of the areas where you can really tax your user systems is if I uncheck this box, run tasks with low priority, Bitdefender will consume as much resources to get that scan done as quickly as possible. Do not recommend that. But if you run it with low priority, it's pretty benign. Now, if you don't have a lot of headroom, so for example, if you're running, very hot, 90, 95%, I probably wouldn't use that on a busy time period. So it just depends. But for the most part, it doesn't consume a lot of resources. I mean, Bitdefender is doing this on my system on a daily basis. So, and I don't really notice it when it occurs. So good question, good question. Now we get to the section where I call it the add-on section of the policy. So I get a lot of questions. What's included in the base versus what is included as an add-on in GravityZone. Once I get to HyperDetect, I have now reached my first add-on with Bitdefender, and this is part of the add-on that we call Advanced Threat Security, or ATS for short. So ATS is Advanced Threat Security. It includes HyperDetect, which is right here, and Sandbox Analyzer, which is right here. So if I want to not use ATS, I want to make sure this box right here is unchecked, and this box right here is unchecked. So if those are both unchecked, you are not using ATS, you will not be charged for ATS. If these boxes are checked, then you will be charged for ATS. And it's, again, designed by policy. So that's the first one. ATS is the first one. The second one is down here, encryption here. So we use encryption as an add-on. So that's integrated. BitLocker, File Vault will enforce the encryption policy. We will store the key within GravityZone. So if you have an encryption provision that you need to, or compliance regulation that you need to adhere to, we integrate natively with BitLocker and File Vault. Incident sensor is EDR. So that is endpoint detection and response. So if I do not want EDR, I make sure that box is unchecked. If I do want EDR, I make sure that box is checked, okay? The rest of these, let me think. Oh, the one I didn't cover is patch, but that doesn't apply here.
Relevant?
So that is, those are the add-ons. So again, just to review, HyperDetect, Sandbox Analyzer is ATS, encryption is encryption, exchange, oh, I forgot that one. That's your exchange. I recommend email security, which is actually down here in the console. So I recommend the email gateway product. If you want Exchange, like if you want to deploy Bitdefender on your Exchange server, we have that as well. Some customers and partners like to do that. I'm more of a cloud guy, so I like the MX redirect technology. I think it's very, very useful, and I don't like to tax my Exchange server with security. So those are the add-ons. EDR, encryption, and advanced threat security are the big ones. Okay, so we covered those. Anti-exploit is basically application mapping and looking for privilege escalations, memory access. So that's part of our base as well. Settings is an area that's pretty important. This defines how long you keep objects in quarantine. So that's number one. Number two, this is how you exclude Bitdefender from looking at various objects in your environment. So if you're wondering, how do I exclude a file, a process, a hash, etc., this is where it's found. Anti-malware settings, and you can exclude all sorts of objects from Bitdefender. So you basically put the object here, you put the path here, you select which modules you want, and you click the plus, and Bitdefender will ignore that particular object in your environment. Security servers is kind of a unique capability. It is part of an add-on as well, but it's used very rarely. This is for highly dense virtual environments, like an ISP or something of that nature, where you want to offload the scanning onto a centralized, dedicated virtual machine that you have deployed. We call that security for virtualized environments. That's SVE. This is part of the SVE add-on. Most customers and partners don't deploy this particular technology, so I'll kind of skip over it. Sandbox Analyzer. This is critical, I think, today in modern day security architecture. This gives Bitdefender the ability to automatically upload and detonate various unknown objects. And the unknown objects could be applications, documents, scripts, archives, etc. on the Bitdefender platform. And then Bitdefender engines can build a risk profile for that object, display that risk profile to you down here in the Sandbox Analyzer section over here on the left. This is also integrated within EDR. Really, really important to think about adding this to your security plan or your security controls for your customers. Or if you are a customer, really, really important to detonate certain types of objects away from your environment rather than in your environment, and then be in this reactive type mode. So that's what we call Sandbox Analyzer. Firewall, this is host-based firewalls. I would highly recommend, especially in our mobile workforce today, this is not checked based upon the default policy that comes from Bitdefender, but I'd highly recommend it. Monitor Wi-Fi connections. So if I'm connecting to a Wi-Fi at Starbucks or in my, at some, remote place or whatever the case may be, this starts to monitor Bitdefender's, it starts to monitor the endpoints Wi-Fi connection for like man-in-the-middle attacks, things like that. So recommend that you set that.
The firewall is a part of the basic package, correct?
That is, firewall is part of the basic package, correct. Yeah, good question. Then the other thing that I would change, and this is probably what I would change first, is because the Bitdefender default policy has right here on line number 6, network printing, which is in use a lot today. And the default setting for network printing in the default policy is to deny. So I would definitely, especially if you're in a work group environment or just anytime, make sure you come over here, select allow, and click save to allow Bitdefender to print over the network. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with partners and customers. Hey, I can't print on the network. When I deploy Bitdefender, that's the reason why. You have the firewall enabled, and one of the firewall rules is to deny network printing. So make sure you change that. So that's the firewall, part of the base package. This is also part of the base package. Content control, network protection, definitely something you want to think about implementing in your security architecture is the ability to monitor web traffic, because that's where a lot of issues with those that have malicious intent to get into your particular environment. Especially we've got remote users now working from home. Their networks are not protected like your corporate network is. So you need to provide some sort of content control or web access control on those endpoints as they are remote. So the first thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to make sure you scan SSL, which is this right here. This covers all your HTTPS traffic, which is about 80+% of the internet now. Then what you can do is you can turn on content filtering. This is found in web access control settings, categories, and web rules. So I can have a fully functioning URL category filtering engine deployed at any endpoint covered by Bitdefender. This is base functionality. It's not an add-on. It's part of the base package. You can allow or deny any website. So you can block Facebook, but allow a marketing department access by selecting allow here. You can whitelist, blacklist any URL in combination with our URL filtering engine. So really, really robust. This also leads me to talk about automatically deploying policies, which is really, really simple in Bitdefender. Here's a scenario that happened last March when the world locked down. I had to send all my users home. Now what do? I need content filtering on, but I don't want content filtering when they're in the office, but when they're at home, I want content filtering. This is done very, very simply by coming over here under policies to what we call assignment rules. So you can assign policies. So if I select a company here, I'll select the GTX company. I can add a location rule. So in other words, by IP address range, by DNS gateway, whatever you want to designate a particular network to be. In other words, are they out of the office or are they in office? You can automatically apply a policy. You can automatically apply a policy as well by user. So if you have a system that has multiple users that log in and out of that system, you can automatically apply user policies as well or policies to that user right by selecting assignment rules. So it's very, very simple to automate the assignment of policies. So that is content control. And we've got about another 5-6 minutes here. Great, we're doing great. Okay, so web protection, we've got network attacks. This is our HIDS technology. Highly recommend you enabling this as well. This is ingress, egress, traffic scanning on each endpoint. It prevents lateral movement. It prevents traffic going out to the internet to some sort of command and control server. It prevents things like brute force password stealers, all sorts of things. Definitely want to deploy that. Device control is enforcing like USB policies or Bluetooth devices. You can block and also allow certain USB devices using device control. This is base functionality of Bitdefender. We talked about encryption. We talked about incident sensor. I'm going to come down here to risk management. This is one of the best unknown features of Bitdefender globally. This allows you to either in your own company, if you're an end user, or your customers' companies, to do security assessment. All you have to do is check this box and check the bottom box and click save. When you do that, you open up Bitdefender's ability to perform risk assessments in your environment. From an operating system perspective, we will categorize your attack surface. We will help you prioritize that attack surface and what to look for, what not to look for. We will also suggest changes for your environment from a security risk, operating system, network, browser, application, as well as users. So we will tell you, do you have a user that uses the same password on 60 different websites? That is a huge security hole in your environment. Or if the users are using weak passwords, etc. Now, we're not going to show you what the password is, but we're going to show you that this user is using the same password, which is unknown to you or Bitdefender, but it's on 30 different websites, okay? So we're monitoring that behavior. Huge, huge security assessment tool built right into Bitdefender. The other thing that I'm going to cover, and then we'll kind of start to close, is EDR. So this is Bitdefender EDR. It is built directly into GravityZone, as you see. When you select incident sensor in the policy, all of the endpoints start to move incidents into our EDR sensor. And from there, We show you the relationships to all of the objects via a given incident. The other thing that's really cool is you can add various objects to exception lists by a couple of clicks. So if I want to exclude this and I never want to see it again in an incident, I select the policies, I click add, and I will not see this again. So if it's a false positive, it takes literally 3 seconds to eliminate false positives in Bitdefender EDR. We will also map, so for root cause analysis, for attestation to legal, we map all of the incidents and their timelines all right in our EDR. So EDR is a great, great tool for visibility, to be able to take action, whether you want to isolate a system, open up a console to an isolated system, if you want to add something to a block list or an allow list, all of that is built into our Bitdefender EDR. All right, Isaac, we're coming up on the 45-minute point. I can show them reports and notifications, or we could take questions. What do you want to do?
Let's quickly run over reports. I think for a lot of people on the line, reports are important also for the customers, also for them to see the usage. We spoke about the usage report earlier, but let's show them the security audit perhaps, just so that, yes, and so then we can jump into the live Q&A.
Okay. So we've got reports. I highly recommend, especially for the partners out there, and for actually one of the reports I would recommend for everyone. So that I'll show you that one first. This one is what we call the security audit report. So security audit report basically tells me, what did Bitdefender do during the time interval that I select here? So what did Bitdefender do this year? Okay, this might be a big report. Hold on. Let's do the last 2 months. So what did we'll do the last 3 months. This is a test environment. So what did Bitdefender do the last 3 months? You can schedule this report. I highly recommend you schedule it on a weekly basis. If you select, like, you want to receive it on Sunday, then you want to say the reporting interval is last week. If you do it at the end of the week over here towards Friday, Saturday, you want to select the reporting interval is this week, okay? So make sure your reporting interval is right. You can deliver this to yourself or your support team or whoever's managing GravityZone. But what this will generate is a report for you basically saying, what did Bitdefender do on each and every object in the machine? So every single event is going to be categorized for you. And notice this is 20 pages long, but I'll just give you a couple of incidents here. Notice we had a firewall event here. All of these are interactive. So these are all interactive links that you can look at. So this answers the question, what did Bitdefender do during the time period for this report? Highly recommend you schedule this, send it to yourself or your customers on a weekly basis. Can absolutely be done. The second report, and this is mostly for the MSPs or the partners, is the monthly license usage report. You're going to want to send this, you're going to schedule this, you're going to send this to yourself on a monthly basis on the first day of the month. Your reporting interval is going to be previous month. You basically send this email to yourself and you go down here, you click save, and you are done. And then you will be able to see what your usage is for that particular time period. So if you, so that there are really no surprises on various, bills and things like that. So you'll be able to see. The final area, and then we'll take some questions, is just this notification area. So how do I set up notifications? It's up here in the top right, the bell. I call it the bell and the gear. The bell and the gear gets you into this. Your email, you're going to put your email there. Make sure you check this box right there, device name. Make sure you check the device name. Make sure you enable the notifications that you want to be notified on. You click save. That's how you set up notifications. Some of the notifications have like extended, fields. So make sure you kind of look through those extended fields. Make sure it's set up the way you want. So it's not so chatty that it's irritating, but you're getting the notifications that you want via email. Also, remember, we also have API integration. You can do push notifications as well. So that's kind of GravityZone in a nutshell. What sorts of questions are we getting?
For our customers on the line, I just want to remind them that if they put their support email in here, they'll be able to get the tickets directly on their Atera dashboard, which will make their lives easier in terms of how they're working on.
Very cool. Okay.
Yes. Perfect. So we have a few questions, Mike. We have a lot of questions actually, but we'll try and pick out a few so that we can get some questions answered. Darren has asked, can you explain how Bitdefender handles ransomware attacks?
Yeah, great question. So Bitdefender has about 30 security controls, actually a little bit more than that now. And Bitdefender uses a defense in-depth architecture. So it is really important when it comes to policies that you are not disabling core functionality to protect your environment from ransomware. Couple of areas. One is on access, make sure you're scanning everything on access. On execute is really critical. This is our correlation engine. So do not turn this off. Otherwise, Bitdefender works in an isolated way. Make sure you set ransomware mitigation. Let's see, the other ones that are really critical, hyper detect. This is part of advanced threat security. This is really critical. If you really are concerned about ransomware, our base product works really well. What this does is this allows you to tune up the intensity of the Bitdefender machine learning correlation engine to specific threat vectors. This is ransomware right here. So if I want to be very aggressive in ransomware, I can tune the Bitdefender machine learning engine. Sandboxing is really critical as well. Unknown objects should be detonated somewhere other than your environment. Network protection is really critical when it comes to ransomware. So make sure that you have the HIPS protection. If ransomware tries to move laterally within your organization, Bitdefender has defensive mechanisms built into this technology. So from a ransomware perspective, this is why Bitdefender scores so well on third-party tests, is all of these security controls work in conjunction from a endpoint, from network, from web, all sorts of different vectors. We correlate all of that and then respond. So that's my answer to the ransomware. We do fantastic. We just don't see ransomware in Bitdefender protected environments unless you disable like our core functionality. So if you're turning off network defense, you're turning off ATC, you're turning off this and that, then that's a problem.
Yes, and Eric Fletcher has asked, is ransomware mitigation part of the base product? Ransomware is a part, but the hyper detect is an add-on as a part of advanced threat security. So that portion, if you want to take it to the next level, is actually an add-on.
Yep.
Right, and that's half of the advanced threat security service. There's also Sandbox, which is included in that service as well. Fantastic. One moment, let's see. What is the difference between the network's settings under Firewall and the assignment rules under policies? By Richie Scott.
Oh, the network. So networks under the policies. So you're talking about, let me just make sure. So they're not correlated. So the firewall, you're talking about these settings. This sets up various trusts. So this is actually an interesting question. So this is where you set up trust profiles. So, and we have several of them. So for example, based upon whether or not a network is trusted, the Bitdefender firewall will actually enable or disable. So for example, if you put a system, like in this particular case, virtual is trusted, what trusted means is there's no scanning. So basically, if you notice here, disables the firewall. So based upon the network profile that you have, the firewall may engage or not engage based upon the trust level that you set. The assignment rules is more to determine the location from a network perspective to be able to assign a policy. So endpoint is in the office. It has a certain network profile. Content control may be turned off in that policy that you apply. Endpoint leaves and goes to Starbucks or goes to their home office or whatever, you can automatically assign based upon the IP address or some other type of networking control, the policy that has content control. Good question. That's a good question.
Fantastic. Great. We have a question here from Craig. I would love to see an overview or a dashboard right from the Atera page. The learning would be fantastic as well. Any plans to pull more of this to the Atera front page? Yes, it is on Atera's roadmap to include deployment, alerting, and also a major part of the billing as it's relevant for a lot of MSPs. This is certainly on our roadmap and to come in the coming quarter, so stay tuned. Okay. Right. Let's see here. Advanced threat security, does enabling it in the policy sufficient, or do you also need to enable it on the company settings?
Good question. Good question. So if you notice here, so if you go into companies, so here, you can select advanced threat security here. Yes, you need to enable it here and in the policies. So you need to enable it here as well as the policy. Now, what's interesting about ATS specifically is that you will not see ATS as part of the package. Okay, it's not added there, but it is added in the company and the policy. Great question. Good question. So you need to enable that in both. Yes.
Right. Fantastic. Casey, curious if we can import lists of content filterings to allow or deny rules or URLs.
Sort of. It depends on what capabilities you have. Like, for example, you can set here some custom rules where you can import various things. But out of the box, that is probably, let me think. I've looked at this before. So you're wondering in this section where you have content control, can you upload like IP addresses, things like that? I don't believe that is possible. You can from a firewall perspective, but not from a content control perspective. Good question.
Fantastic. We're hitting the top of the hour. We're getting a lot of questions about pricing. I just want to remind everyone that the pricing is actually available within our knowledge base articles. And also within our knowledge base articles, you're going to get a full extensive list on what is considered a part of cloud security, which is the base package, and what services are there, as well as what's considered an add-on. So if you're still unsure and really want to get that that full scope, you can certainly see that in our knowledge base articles. Just head over to our support at Atera. Okay. Let's grab one more question before we wrap up. Let's see here. Oh my God, there's so many questions. This is a good one. Tom has a question. Are there any conflicts between Bitdefender and other AVs? Can they coexist?
Good question. I do not. So I've been doing this a long time. I do not recommend running multiple AV solutions as they seem to step on each other. Your mileage may vary. Let's just put it that way. However, I will say that on deployment, what you can do is in the package, like for example, Bitdefender will automatically remove competitors. And there's a whole list of competitors down here that Bitdefender has tested, and we will actually uninstall that competitor. But for a short period of time, let's say that Bitdefender is unable to remove that package or that software from another endpoint security vendor. What you can do is deploy Bitdefender right alongside another endpoint solution. And I would recommend for a short period of time so that you can uninstall that other endpoint solution. So I typically don't recommend Bitdefender, alongside, other than we have a specialized product that I'm not sure if it's available yet in the market yet, but we have what we call our Edr Standalone, which can be deployed. But basically what it does is it turns Bitdefender into a read-only state, and we'll just help you visualize incidents. And because of all of our engines, we have broader coverage. So if you want to deploy like an Edr Standalone, that could be deployed on another endpoint. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend it. Good question.
Fantastic. So before we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone that everyone has the ability to trial Atera so long as you are an Atera customer. Please, if you aren't already, consider going in, subscribing, and trialing out Bitdefender and all of the services that it has to offer. This session is going to be recorded and shared with everyone. It'll be sent by email, it'll be posted on a blog, and we're gonna share it on our Facebook community. So if you're not in our Facebook community, please be sure to join and ask questions and get involved in the conversation, because it's happening already live. Mike, I really wanna thank you for joining us today, for sharing all this useful information, and hopefully we'll find ways to collaborate again in the near future and answer some more questions.
That'd be awesome. Yep. Thanks so much.
Fantastic.
Thanks everyone for your time. Really appreciate it. I know your time's valuable.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye now.